The Skull Kid, a rather innocent creature that seems pretty irrelevant compared to the grand scheme of things. But this lonesome forest dweller actually has a story filled with tragedy, darkness, and hope. But there are also a lot of questions. For example, who is he? What happened after Majora's Mask? And is it truly the same one in each game? Well, let's find out by looking at the tragic rise of the Skull Kid. On the outskirts of Kokiri Forest, you will find a deep and dark forest known as the Lost Woods. A maze of trees that many in Hyrule wander into and become lost in. Only those who listen carefully can make their way out. However, for those that don't, a gruesome fate awaits. Because while this place might look fairly normal, there are actually magical forces at play that will affect anyone who enters and stays long enough. Because in Ocarina of Time, it is said that if people wander into the forest for too long, they can turn into monsters, such as a Skull Kid, a Stalfos, or a Deku Scrub. For example, Fado says this about a man that we tried to help in the Lost Woods, but when we came back with the medicine he needed, he was gone. Even the Gossip Stones will say that when non-fairy folk enter the Lost Woods, they become monsters. Clearly, most people shouldn't stay here for too long, because some sort of dark magic has taken over these woods. However, while all of this might sound quite ominous, Link actually stumbles across one creature here that is surprisingly friendly, the Skull Kid, who looks a lot like a scarecrow, and happily plays his flute, not worrying about a thing in the world. Now, when we first encounter him, we have no idea who this is. We just stumble upon him, and he disappears as soon as we try to get close. And the only thing Navi has to say about it is this what happens to kids who wander into the forest? It looks like he doesn't like grown-ups, and he seems unhappy to have no face. This already gives us an idea of the tragic circumstances of this rather jolly character, who might seem happy on the outside, but he's nothing more than a kid who became lost and cursed in the woods. Now Link can befriend him by playing Saria's song for him, but this isn't the only thing we can do to cheer up this lost child. It is clear that he's anything but happy with his new look. Some Kokiri even remember hearing him complain about his face, but Link can help. When you wear the skull mask, the woodland critter comments that he would like to have it to make him appear a little tougher. So Link sells him the mask. And so, even though the hero has to focus on saving the world, he can still help people with smaller problems here and there. But overall, the life of Skull Kid is dark, lonely, and empty. He was once just a child, a kid who wandered into the forest. And after that fateful day, his parents never saw him again, as he wandered the woods forever. However, while Link was able to cheer him up a little bit and help him accept his new fate a bit better, soon after the events of Ocarina of Time, the story took a dark turn, as the Skull Kid came across an artifact that no one should be in possession of. While Link was out saving the world from the evils of Ganondorf, the Skull Kid went on his own adventures, influencing a completely different world. Long ago, before the land of Termina was split into 4 regions, the Skull Kid befriended the 4 giants, the deities that protected this continent. On the day of the Carnival of Time, the guardian deities announced to the people of Termina that they would guard the land while laying dormant, with the world of Termina now split into 4 parts by the order of the 4 giants, with each of the deities taking 100 steps towards their respective regions. They told their people that if trouble befell them, they could call the giants in a loud voice, declaring their plight. The Skull Kid, who had long been friends with the giants, was stricken by their departure, feeling neglected and alone. So he began to lash out. Fed up with the Skull Kid's misdeeds, the people of Termina called upon the 4 giants for aid. The giants answered and ordered the Skull Kid to leave Termina, threatening to kill him if he disobeyed. Frightened by the giant's anger and saddened by the loss of his old friends, the Skull Kid returned to the heavens. Now this is a story that is told by Anju's grandmother, and it shows how old the Skull Kid really is and what happened before Link met him. Instead of going to the heavens, he most likely went to Hyrule, and we never knew he was rejected in his homeland and only came to Hyrule because he had to. But at some point, he decided to return once again again to Termina. Here he was found by the two fairy siblings, Tattle and Tail, who saw Skull Kid taking shelter from a storm in a hollow tree in Termina Field. He told them he had been quarreling with his friends and that they had abandoned him. And so, all of them, shivering from the cold, they huddle up together, and a lifelong friendship was formed. They played together in the woods, and for once, it seems like the Skull Kid was truly happy. However, at some point, they stumbled upon a man carrying a mask that corrupted anything it touched. The traveling Happy Mask salesman was at the crossroads of Hyrule and Termina when he was ambushed by Skull Kid, who felt compelled to rob him. The artifact that was calling to him was the evil Majora's Mask, a powerful artifact once used by an ancient tribe for hexing rituals. And upon donning this mask, everything changed, and this evil saw an opportunity to use this fragile soul as a vessel. As Majora slowly but surely poisoned the Skull Kid's heart and mind, his trickery became more and more concerning. At first, it was only small things, like graffiti that can be found all over Termina, but as time went on, he started to actually harm people. For example, he stole the soul of the Deku Butler's son, put a curse on Cafe, turning him into a child, attacks Kome in the Woods of Mystery, and traps the giants, who were once his friends, inside of the 4 dungeons seen in the game. Now these are only some of his crimes, but it is clear that the only thing the Skull Kid wants is chaos, destruction, and misery, with the grand finale being the destruction of Termina using a gigantic moon that would be impossible to stop without the 4 giants. The straw that broke the camel's back was cursing Link, because he was able, with the help of the Happy Mask salesman and Goddess of Time, to rise up against the Skull Kid and Majora's Mask, not just stopping him from tormenting the people of Termina with his tricks, but also preventing the moon from crushing the world. Link frees the 4 giants after the Skull Kid locked them away, and they, together with Link, are able to beat Majora's Mask, who at that point has no need for the Skull Kid anymore. In the end, the world is saved, and the Skull Kid, now without the immense power and influence of Majora's Mask, is clearly traumatized by the whole event. But now the big question is, was the Skull Kid the true villain of the game, or just a victim of Majora as well? The Skull Kid's life has been filled with struggle, from getting lost in the woods as a kid, most likely somewhere in Termina, becoming this cursed being, to losing his friends in Termina and feeling abandoned by everyone. But as time went on, the situation got better, with kind people like Link, as well as Tattle and Tail, providing a spark of hope. Just as things were getting better, Skull Kid heard Majora's Mask's dark call, starting to influence his mind, leading him to robbing the Happy Mask salesman. As soon as he laid eyes on the mask, you could see his soul twist and bend, and in no time the dark magic of the mask captured him and wouldn't let go. At first, it very much seems like the Skull Kid is still somewhat in control of his actions, and all the pranks and tricks he pulls off are his own idea. But Majora is clearly amplifying some of his worst tendencies, making him short-tempered and cruel towards others. We can especially see this in the intro, and when Link confronts him at the top of the clock tower. In many ways, he's enacting his revenge using his new powers, but as time went on, he started to lose control, becoming Majora's puppet and victim just like everyone else. You can clearly see this as the days go by in Termina. At first, he still seems rather normal when on top of the clock tower, but if you look at him using the telescope at the Comet Observatory on day 3, you can see that he has clearly lost his mind, twitching like a deranged lunatic. At the end of the day, the Skull Kid was a victim of Majora's Mask like so many others, but some of the things he did were his own choice. This is why he feels so much guilt after Termina was saved, and clearly the whole experience impacted him a lot. But in the end, he also finds a lot of closure, with the 4 giants stating that they see him as a friend and didn't forget about him. And this is also where we get the confirmation that this is the same Skull Kid that we met in the Lost Woods, close to Kokiri Forest, all those years ago, because he says that you smell the same as the fairy kid who taught him that song in the woods. So we can be quite certain that it's him. Now, this was the lowest point for the Skull Kid. Just as he was doing better and found his place in this world, his mind was poisoned and twisted by a mask. But after this, he would rise to new heights never seen before, even though most people think that the story ended here, but it didn't. After the events of Majora's Mask, the Hero of Time went on his own adventures and died long before the events of Twilight Princess. During this time, the world changed a lot. The Lost Woods kind of disappeared, the Kokiri most likely transformed into these monkeys, well, that's what the tattoos they have imply at least, and the Great Deku Tree is gone. However, while a lot has changed, one thing hasn't. One person is still there after all these years, and he has flourished in this new world. When the new incarnation of Link goes looking for the legendary Master Sword, his search leads him to the Faron Woods, a huge forest that seems to be where the Kokiri Forest and Lost Woods once were. The Forest Temple in this game even looks a lot like the Great Deku Tree, and here you can also find a place that seems to have a long forgotten history, the Sacred Grove, where both the Temple of Time and Master Sword can be found. We first learn about this place from a monkey who had helped Link before, who tried to go to the Sacred Grove and got attacked by puppets. Now, as soon as we go to investigate, we meet an old friend, the Skull Kid. He has become the guardian of the Sacred Grove, and almost like a deity that watches over these ancient forests. And it seems like the Skull Kid was expecting someone like Link to show up at some point, because there's a Howling Stone close by that basically summons him. For centuries he waited for this moment, the moment a new hero would arrive to prove his worthiness to obtain the Master Sword. Link is able to prove himself, and obtains the Master Sword in the end. He's even aided by the Skull Kid again later on to find the Temple of Time. Now in-game there's a clue that this is the same Skull Kid that the Hero of Time had to deal with. He knows and plays Saria's song, which Link taught him after all, so it could very well be him, but a lot has changed. The Skull Kid looks different, the forest has shifted, the Temple of Time is no longer relevant, and the Master Sword is almost a forgotten relic. But what happened to the Skull Kid exactly? Well, there are a couple of hints that can give us an idea of what went down here over the last century. After the Skull Kid's misadventures in Termina, with Majora's Mask poisoning his mind and soul, he had time to heal, with his two fairy friends at his side. Now, it is a bit unclear what exactly happened to him in the meantime, but it seems like he had some sort of redemption arc. When we look at his appearance, we can see two new things. First of all, he now carries a lantern, which is a bit odd. And secondly, he has a magical trumpet flute that can summon puppets. Puppets that look a lot like Skull Kid, because they wear the same attire. Now, the only characters we see in the Zelda series that carry lanterns are Poes, the spirits of those who couldn't pass on. It seems like Skull Kids do not live forever, even though his little side adventure before the events of Majora's Mask in Termina makes you think otherwise. But it makes sense because you can actually kill them in Ocarina of Time, even though it's a rather cruel thing to do. Maybe that's the only way they can truly die, who knows. But it seems like at some point the Skull Kid did die, just like the Hero of Time, which makes me think that the Skull Kid is just a twisted and cursed child instead of a spirit or undead like Astalphos. Aside from that, he's now some sort of protecting spirit of the Lost Woods, and has the power to summon puppets and manipulate the forest to defend these lands, including all of the old relics found here like the Master Sword. I assume he got this role after his death, and only two groups could have been responsible for this: the Golden Goddesses and the royal family of Hyrule. You summon him by howling Zelda's lullaby after all, a song that has been passed down in the royal family for centuries, and has always been used by the hero to progress his quest of stopping evil. So I assume that after his redemption arc, following the possession of Majora's Mask, he was granted this special role upon death. The Great Deku Tree, who used to be the protector of these forests, is gone after all, and so a new guardian was needed, armed with a magical flute granted by the gods to keep anyone out who isn't the destined hero that needs the Master Sword to stop Ganondorf. Honestly, we see things like this quite often in the Legend of Zelda universe. The royal family, for example, built the Temple of Time and Pedestal of Time to seal the Triforce in a sacred realm, with certain protectors and artifacts playing a role in unlocking it. Or the Shrine of Resurrection that was built just in case the hero lost the battle against evil and needed to be saved from the brink of death. And so the Skull Kid, a character who had a connection with the former hero, was chosen to fulfill this role. It could even be that the Hero of Time was involved in this process. So in the child timeline, the Skull Kid experienced both his darkest and brightest days, going from a villain to some sort of hero. But now I bet most of you will be thinking, what happened to this character in the other timelines? Well, that is a bit of a mystery. While the Skull Kid had quite the story arc in the child timeline, Skull Kids in general aren't seen in the Wind Waker or A Link to the Past. Now in the Wind Waker it makes sense that Skull Kids aren't seen anywhere. Most of the world has turned into a massive ocean after the gods flooded the world to stop Ganondorf. So the Lost Woods are gone, completely underwater, and it could very well be that the Skull Kid met a similar fate. He wasn't granted a special role like in Twilight Princess, so he passed on. And as we all know, the events of the Downfall timeline were also rather grim, with Ganondorf winning and obtaining the full Triforce. Now the forces of good were able to seal Ganon away, but he kept coming back again and again, slowly eroding the Kingdom of Hyrule. At the end of the Downfall timeline, the whole kingdom is a shadow of its former self, and I expect that the Skull Kid died during all of this turmoil. The Lost Woods also changed a lot after all these years. Many woodland critters that used to live there aren't seen anymore. Meanwhile, bandits run amok, which might also be a reason why the Skull Kids aren't seen anymore. So while the Skull Kid saw his lowest lows and highest highs in the child timeline, he disappeared from history in every other universe. But at least in one timeline, he had an arc, and a pretty good one. However, this isn't the only Zelda topic we tackled. We also looked at the Mirror Shield and who is trapped in it, why Big Goron is so big, and every time the full Triforce was used in the Zelda series. So be sure to check out those videos. Aside from that, don't forget to become a member for extra perks like early videos. I stream here on YouTube every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, so come hang out, and like and subscribe so you won't miss any future videos.